Hey guys, it's History Behind the Warrior, and welcome to another God of War video. Since we've been talking a fair bit about Odin recently in our topic and discussion videos, today it only felt right to talk about the beast prophesied to bring on the end of the Raven King, a child of Loki, and the blight of Asgard, Fenrir. But in order to get a better understanding of Fenrir, or Fenris depending on your pronunciation, it literally means the same thing. We must first talk on his Nordic mythological counterpart, so we can then talk about what exactly has happened to this iteration of Fenrir in the God of War universe. But before we do so, once again guys, big thank you for all the love and support recently. I super appreciate it. You guys have done an incredible job. So, once again, if possible, let's try getting this video to about 500 likes, and please don't forget to subscribe and tick that bell. That way you'll stay up to date with all of my new content on the way, including the history of Hercules. But before we do start, we do have a sponsor for today's video. Sick and tired of waiting for games of 2022 to not release or get delayed? Well, wait no longer with our sponsor today, Raid Shadow Legends. Let's face it, you know them. Everyone knows them. But did you know that the universe of Raid is always growing? With now over 600 champions and more factions than ever, the world of Talaria continues to grow, and this includes the likes of its new fearsome boss, the Hydra. With 6 different heads to take down, the Hydra is a fearsome opponent, and honestly, the craziest boss they have ever made to date. Each head has a different ability, so it forces you into a situation where you need to formulate a plan and choose tactically as you take it down. But that is easier said than done, as it is no simple task. The head of blight will poison you. The head of torment will terrify your champions. The head of mischief will actually steal your buffs. The head of wrath will use revenge to triple back its attack power. The head of decay will chip away at your health bar. And finally, the head of suffering will cause you to take the damage you deal out. So yeah, from what you can tell, the Hydra is really bringing the fight to the champion. Now, one of my personal favorite aspects about Raid is that you can play it anytime, anywhere. As someone who does travel a lot for his job, it is super handy to have a game at your fingertips that is available on both iOS, Android, and even desktop. So I can pick up and play anytime, anywhere. But with that said, what is new with Raid? Well, this January, they are releasing not only a new wave of champions your way, but a new faction war crypt for the Shadowkin. If you are a big fan of their toolkit and design, then you absolutely do not want to miss out on this for sure. Plus, with us still coming off the new year, there are a ton of tournaments and events you can get involved in. And this includes the likes of a special fusion event where you can get one of Raid's new legendary champions. There's honestly never been a better time to be a fan of Raid. So, if you are interested in jumping in, please use my link in the description below or scan my QR code. By doing so, you'll get a free starter pack nearly worth $30, where you will get a free champion, Vergis, 200k silver, 1 energy refill, 1 XP boost, and 1 ancient shard to summon another amazing champion in game. And you can get all of these rewards right here. So what are you waiting for? Click on the link in the description below, and I'll catch you all there. For those of you unfamiliar with the tale of Fenrir, the wolf giant is a child of the god of mischief, Loki, and the mother of all monsters, Angrboda. He's the eldest child of the two, being siblings to Jormungandr and Hel. But what made Fenrir quite a fearsome beast is that he was prophesied to bring on the end of one of the most ancient gods in history. Now, as expected and known in the Nordic pantheon, the birth of Fenrir set off alarms in the halls of Asgard, as it was one of the signs of the apocalypse. So, to prevent events from ever passing, once the All-Father learnt of Fenrir, he would have him be taken away from Angrboda and Loki, choosing to adopt him in his care within Asgard. He believed that by doing so, he could keep a close eye on the young cub. But it's here where his shock and horror grew. In a very short amount of time, the wolf would quickly blossom into adulthood, growing in not only size, but also in strength. quickly seeing that even with his interference, he was struggling to handle fate. Odin would have Fenrir be taken away to a faraway land, Kattegat. He did this in the hopes that Fenrir would be bound there for all of eternity, but this is something that the wolf wouldn't fall for so easily. The wit of the wolf kept the Aesir on their toes, and made it so the will of Odin could not be carried out so easily. So in order to restrain Fenrir, they tricked the wolf into playing a game. You see, the Aesir wished to bound the wolf to the lands with chains, whilst at first he refused, sensing that something was off. The Aesir gods were able to trick him into believing that this was all simply a test of his strength. So, with his ego stroked, the wolf would be binded by chains, and they would snap. It took multiple attempts until they decided that they needed something more, something that could not be broken. So, with the assistance from the dwarves, they were able to forge a binding ribbon that was stronger than any chains in all the 9 realms. And this sparked worry in the wolf. Seeing that the chains were now ribbons, Fenrir knew that something was off, and refused to even be touched by them. But it took Tyr to convince him. The son of Odin made a deal with the wolf, telling him that he would place his hand in the wolf's mouth if he in turn would be bound by the ribbons. If at any point he suspected something was wrong, then Tyr gave him permission to eat his hand. So, whilst weary, Fenrir eventually accepted the challenge and was bound in the ribbons. But now, unlike before, Fenrir could not break his binds. Realizing that he was right to be suspicious all along, he would bite down on Tyr's hand, completely taking it off. To guarantee that the wolf would never escape, Fenrir would be chained to a giant boulder and have his mouth be shut with a sword. Here, the wolf would be left until the days of Ragnarok, where his rage would finally come to the surface and be unleashed. During the twilight end of the gods, Fenrir had finally grown strong enough to break the chains that binded him, and obviously, having not forgotten what the gods had done to him, charged into battle with his siblings, looking to destroy Asgard. In this battle, Fenrir would cross paths with the Allfather and vanquish him by consuming him. While successful in fulfilling the prophecy, the wolf giant would eventually fall to a son of Odin, Vidar. So, this is the end of Fenrir in Norse mythology. But what of the God of War universe? Well, it's a peculiar scenario, as the universe isn't strictly tied to the rules of Norse mythology. One of the things we must point out and mention here is that Ragnarok is acting in a loop of sorts, as we see Jormungandr, the world serpent, is present in the modern day game world, whilst Loki, Atreus, is still a young child. So this implies that he had been sent back in time to the present, before the events of the 2018 game. This is also hinted at by Mimir during one of his numerous tales.
It is said that when Jormungandr and Thor battle at Ragnarok, their clash so violently shakes the tree of life that it splinters, casting the serpent backward through time, even before his own birth.
What?
That is madness.
Because of this, it is actually pretty softly hinted at that a similar event has already transpired in the game world to Fenrir. Not seen in-game outside of a mural, or referred to directly by his name, but instead his Nordic name, Fenrir. We learn from Mimir that Odin is currently in ownership of Skoll and Hati. But who is Skoll and Hati? Well, these two are in fact the giant wolf children of Fenrir. These two determine the time and start of Ragnarok, as it's prophesied that both will soar across the sky and eventually catch the sun and moon. Once they are consumed, the stars would die out, and the end would begin. Odin, in the God of War universe, has somehow been able to capture the children of Fenrir, and seeks to use them to control when Ragnarok begins. Knowing that this event may be inevitable, he seeks to control when it starts, so by doing so, he is more than prepared for when it does begin. But with that said, what about Fenrir? Well, the truth is, right now, we do not truly know. All that we know of the wolf giant is the small bit of exposition from Mimir, which tells us the fate of Skoll and Hati. It does lightly imply lie, that Odin has captured them in order to somewhat blackmail the wolf giants, holding them at bay so Fenrir can't get to him. With Odin in possession of them, we don't really know what extents the Allfather has gone to in order to manipulate Fenris. But one thing we do know for sure is that the binding of Fenris is yet to go underway, as we do clearly see in bits of promotional material that Tyr still retains his hand. Now, of course, this could all be done for trailers and promotional material, but it seems like quite a fair bit of work for what's already out there. But for now, this has been it for Where is Fenris. I hope you enjoyed this one and learnt more about the wolf giant. He's a key component in Norse mythology, and many might not be aware of who and what he is, as I know many's first exposure to Norse mythology may have in fact been the God of War game. So I hope this gives you a rough idea with the next installment in the Norse series of games. Plus again, Tyr's still got that hand, and with God of War Ragnarok being the culmination of this pantheon, one can only guess at this point how it all does unfold. But until then, this has been it for me. So as always, stay strong, stay well, and keep on fighting as Ragnarok comes for us all. Take care everyone.